Hey everybody, it's Alan Brochstein from 420 Investor and New Cannabis Ventures here with your weekly update on the cannabis stock market. And this was not a bad week. Last week I told you how well I did in my model portfolios at 420 Investor relative to the market for the month of July. And this week, while it wasn't of the same magnitude, it was 19% or more in my model portfolios versus 4% for the global cannabis stock index in July. This last week, the global cannabis stock index fell a little bit, and all my model portfolios were up a little bit, which is good. If you multiply that by 52, it's great. So the goal of this video is to share my thinking with a different group of followers than 420 Investor members, and so I hope that if you like this and you want more, you'll subscribe to 420 Investor. And so I also wanted to point out that this week I'm in a chair. Yeah, I'm out of my wheelchair and back in a regular chair. You can see back there, I'm using a walker now. I've actually gotten pretty good at that, and I'm actually walking with a cane, but not in my house. And so and again, I'm wearing a mask because I'm missing some teeth from the accident I had in April, and I don't want to disturb you with the gap tooth look. All right, so this week there was some big news for the cannabis market, and that was the Illinois adult use cannabis sales. They always come out around the first day of the month to the third. I think it was the second day it was Tuesday, August 2nd, I believe. And they released what was almost a record sales for July of 135.7 million. And this was great sequentially. It was up 7%. So that was good, but it was only up 6% from a year ago. That's not so good. Now, I've been very optimistic about Illinois expanding, and it hasn't happened yet. The reason I'm optimistic and why it hasn't happened yet is the same. They have awarded a bunch of new dispensaries, but they're not yet open. That's going to be pretty soon. So look for Illinois, especially the people that have the maximum or close to the maximum of 10 dispensaries already. They're not going to expand their sales from retail. They're going to see more competition, but they're also, especially Cresco, but there are some others that are big suppliers in the market, and they will benefit from expanded distribution. So that was the big news. The other piece of news that I shared in the weekly newsletter with my subscribers, and that I'll link here too, it's a public document, is that Hi-Fire, which is owned by Fire Flower, it's their data arm, they published their July estimate based on what they're seeing in their point of sale systems, and it's really good. And they're looking for Canada to be up 7% sequentially in July, like Illinois was, but it works out to be more like, I think, 20% or so from a year ago. I forget the exact number. I didn't write it down. So that was the big news from the market, kind of plugging and chugging in some core places like Illinois and Canada. All right, I did share 4 documents in written form with my subscribers, and one of them is public, and I'll put a link to that as well in the bottom of this. And so each week I'm going over the market. The reason I do that is all week long I'm putting stuff out, but it's a lot for some people. And so the idea is I would like to have in one document something that summarizes everything. And you can read it too, I don't care. I don't know if I'm going to share it publicly forever, but right now I am. And the other pieces that I wrote this week for my subscribers at 420 Investor are the same 2 things that I put out also on Friday. Model portfolio composition, and that looks at my 2 longer term focused model portfolios and points out how they're weighted by subsector compared to the global cannabis stock index. And then the other one was a subsector review. That's where I look at a chart from a point in time and I include similar market cap companies by subsector, and we can compare. And I think that a lot of people have a mistaken view that all cannabis stocks move the same. And I, in my 9+ years of experience, know that's not true. It can be, but in general, it's not. Some stocks go up a lot, some go down a lot, and they're not all the same. And so that chart this week, I did a year-to-date performance, and it really stood out in my mind how different some of these cannabis companies have been. And then I also published every week during earnings season, especially, but every week that there's an earnings report, I publish previews. And so this week, 5 companies on my focus list reported, and I'll go over that in just a moment. And I put out previews for all of them. This coming week, so today or tomorrow, I'm going to write up for 9. That's a long effort. That's probably about 9 hours of work, or maybe 6 to 9 hours of work if I get it done properly. My challenge has been being absent 3 months ago makes it really a little bit more time consuming than I'd like it to be right now. But I'm pretty much back now, except for missing that gap. And so let me just go over the focus list that I shared with my subscribers in this piece that you can read also. So Air introduced a new brand in Massachusetts called Lit. It's premium flower, and it comes from Nevada. And I think through an acquisition in Nevada, they picked up this technology. I forget exactly what it is, but it is premium flower, and we know how important it is for cannabis companies to have premium flower. And I can't tell you this is a big deal or not. I don't know. But that was one piece of news for a focus list name. Another one was Columbia Care introduced a cannabis loyalty mobile app in 14 markets. And so, again, I'd like to tell you this is good or bad or indifferent. I don't know, but it is a focus list name, and it was important to the company. The next one was an earnings report, one of the 5. Canopy Growth. Well, first of all, they named a new chief legal officer, and the stock was down a lot when they announced that. But I didn't put this in the write-up, but I say it was down a lot. It was actually up a lot. I think it went down at first, but then it went up a lot. And so some people were attributing it to the new chief legal officer from Afria. No, it wasn't that at all. It was short covering ahead of the report. But I think they were beaten up, I think, by the Globe and Mail. And it was an article, I put it in the duh category. It was all about how Canopy Growth was just horrible, and they made all these mistakes. Well, I didn't learn anything from that, and I already knew everything. And then the stock went way up, and so I think it was kind of poetic that they were blasted in the media and the stock rallied. So either nobody reads the Globe and Mail, or they recognize that type of article is usually contradictory to the reality, or the timing of the reality. All right, so then they also posted, I think, near expectations, 110.1 million Canadian in revenue. It was, I think 112 was expected, 113. And I think they did it was 1.5% below their Q4 numbers. And so it wasn't great. And there was a real standout. They had a huge loss, and that loss included a massive impairment. So this former Canopy bear certainly wasn't surprised by that, and they had a lot of intangibles and goodwill, and I think that was the bulk of the write-down. They haven't put out their filing yet, so I'll have more to say about that later. But I'm still a Canopy bull. Is it the best company? No. Is it really cheap? Well, kind of from a short-term perspective, but maybe not long-term. Okay, Goodness Growth, which is being acquired by Verano, launched cannabis-infused gummies in Minnesota. And that's a weird thing. I talked about that many weeks ago. The Republicans in Minnesota apparently legalized the sale of infused uh, uh, cannabis for a lot of people. And we know that there's only two companies that are medical cannabis producers in the state, and Goodness Growth is one of them, and GTI bought the other. So now GTI, not GTI, but Goodness Growth is getting in the new game. All right. The next one is Green Lane, and I'm shocked by what happened. I had a small position in Green Lane, picked up and expanded recently, uh, and the company had already had its voters approve a reverse split, but it made an announcement this week that it's actually going to do it. Now, I know that penny stock traders don't like reverse splits, and they're right in general. An OTC company that does a reverse split is usually about to dilute the heck out of the stock, and so they want it to be a higher price. It's easier to sell at a higher price than a lower price, and there's also certain outstanding share limitations. So this was not that at all. Green Lane was facing eviction from the NASDAQ. And so this is 100% related to the company's desire to stay on the NASDAQ. And so I think the stock is really inexpensive, and I don't view this negatively like others. And so I actually added to it a little bit yesterday. All right, next is GrowGen, and wow, wow, wow. That's not CFA talk. I'll give you that, but wow. So they had a missed quarter and reduced guidance, and the stock was trading below $4 in the pre-market, making me feel terrible because I own some, not in my trading account, but in my longer-term model portfolios. And I just felt like, well, maybe Alan goofed. No. Look at the chart, and I'm going to probably write about this weekend at New Cannabis Ventures. I don't know yet. But it was like straight up, and it ended up rallying on the day. It got above $5 and then pulled back a little bit. What a reversal. And I think I'm going to tell you now, because I'm not sure I'm writing about it. If you're looking for something bullish, when a company comes out with a bad report and a bad outlook and the stock goes up, there's a secret there. Smart people were buying, I think. All right. Next is GTI. And again, back to this theme, I think GTI's number was great. It was an MSO, the first and only to report so far. They beat the expectations. They only grew 15% compared to a year ago, 5% compared to a quarter ago. So they weren't stellar numbers. And the stock, I thought it was going to rally, and it didn't. And it pulled back a little bit. And I do have a position in GTI in my longer-term model portfolios, and I didn't add to it on that pullback, but I kind of missed during the week, I think. And yesterday, 2 days later, the stock rallied, and it closed at 10. And I told my subscribers, I used another CFA term today, good. I told them it was really great action, or good action. So that's GTI. Hydrofarm came out and pre-announced, and I do have a large position in Hydrofarm that is way underwater, but not from a long time ago. It's been a terrible performer, and they came out with a really bad pre-announcement for this Q2 and lower guidance as well, and the stock was way down, and then it shot up, and it didn't make it to up, but it lifted a lot from the low near 2.25, just above 2.25, and it got close to $3 and ended up a little bit below where it got to. But I think that's another sign of a bull market, or the end of the bear market, when a company which has performed terribly comes out with bad news, and then it rallies a lot after the initial impact. Okay, next is IIPR. They reported it as well, and it was a record quarter, and I liked the call, and it did well the first day, and then the second day it pulled back, but I'm going to just say for you, I like IIPR, and this is a guy that doesn't really like REITs for the cannabis world. for a lot of reasons. I think that in the future, they're going to face too much competition and they won't be able to grow in general, the REITs. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And I'll just say, I think that there's much better investments. And if you're looking for capital gains, the REITs are not likely to be it. But with that said, IIPR bounced at the low near 1.1 or 1.2 times book value. And that's low. And it's forward multiple, it seems low. So I actually do own some right now. And I see the potential for big capital gains here. I think the stock was overly punished on the bad news out of their California tenant, and I don't think that there's a lot more bad news to come, and I don't even think the bad news that they had in California is going to be as bad as some people think it might be. Okay, next is Planet 13, and they announced the acquisition of an option to acquire from their majority partner. Sorry, he is a minority, but he is the majority owner of their joint venture in Illinois. And so it was not a lot of money, and I don't think it's a big deal. But I am glad to see Planet 13 is no longer just a Nevada company, but they're in California, operating in Florida, building and working in Illinois. So they're going to be a four-state company, and they've done very well as the leader in Nevada in a tough time. The next one is Trulieve, and they opened up 2 dispensaries. They opened up their first Trulieve dispensary. Remember, they bought Harvest, and Harvest had their dispensaries in Arizona. But they opened up their first Trulieve in Arizona, and interesting, but not that important, I don't think. And then they also opened yet another one in Florida. And then Tilray had some news about their Breckenridge distillery, and I'm not even going to go over the news. You can read about it, and I don't think it's important. And then Verano. So let me tell you, I told my subscribers that below $5, Verano is probably a buy. Did I buy it? No. I'm waiting, and I'm not going to tell you why, but I'm waiting until they report. I think there's a chance that I could like them better, either at the same price or maybe a lower price. And so I have told all my subscribers exactly why. But Verano opened their 4th dispensary in Maryland, and they also opened up their 54th in Florida. And so Trulieve is by far, I don't want to call them dominant, but they're by far the largest Florida operator. They have a lot of dispensaries there, and they do just under 50% of the flower sales and slightly less of the MMJ. And so that's the news that came out on the focus list. It was a busy week. I'm sorry if that took a long time to get through all that. All right, next I want to tell you about the market this week. The Global Cannabis Stock Index for the week fell 0.8% after a 4.3% rally in off of the all-time low set June 30th on the closing basis in July, I mean. And so, it's a little disconcerting when the overall stock market's doing well and people don't care about cannabis stocks. I just think we're coming out of a bear market, but it's not a V bottom and it's not immediately a bull market. I think we are in the process of ending the bear market with a bull market to develop, but clearly the evidence is that we're not in a bull market right now. Not yet, although my model portfolios are. So that's the market. And let me just talk about the model portfolios real quick. And I think I'm just having a mouse problem here. There we go. So I have 3 model portfolios. One is a trading one called Flying High. It's been around since 2013, and it's up 2,030%, 40% since then. That is a lot. It's up 21 times. And so this week was not a great week, but it was up 0.3% when the overall market fell 0.8%. Now, that doesn't sound that great to pick up 1.1% in a week. It is. If you did that every week, you'd be up 50% more than the market. So, at any rate, that was that one, and there's more information in the write-up about it. And then 420 Opportunity was up 0.1%. Again, not a great margin of victory, but up more than the 0.8% loss against the index against which it's measured. And again, I had some trades in there which you can read about. And 420 quality was up also 0.1%. And the year-to-date returns are much better than the index. You can read about them in there. And the final thing I want to go over as we cross 20 minutes is the calendar. And so we are in earnings season, and I've written it down. I'm not going to go over this extensively, but there are 9 companies that are on my focus list that are reporting. I'm going to write them all up today or tomorrow, and I have a whole bunch of others that are listed on that, and you can read. And if you care about who's reporting and when and how to listen to the call, we do publish a calendar at New Cannabis Ventures that has all of them in sequential order in how to listen to the call, either by phone and or by webcast. And so I'm going to just urge you to take a look. It's a busy, busy week. So is the first part of next week. Y'all take care. Have a good week.